Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the live chat. It is so good to be back, everyone. It has been a crazy week this week, hasn't it? There has been so much going on. So, yeah, needless to say, live chat, like always, is going to have no shortage of topics to talk about. So, thanks, everyone who's already in the stream. It is so good to be back. It's so good to be chatting with you all again. Time to kick off one of my favorite parts of my week, and it is the live chat. Couple things right off the bat. Shout out to Split End 89, as always, who has helped moderating the chat. Split End, we appreciate you here so much. So thank you again, as always, for being here. The topics this week. Just announced earlier today, Unreal Engine 5 is here. That is right. We got our first really big look at a multi-platform next generation engine. Now, it is going to work on current gen as well, but what they showed here was running directly on the PlayStation 5 itself in real time. Now, this was not an actual game, but it was completely in engine and running in real time. So, not quite the same as watching an actual gameplay demo, but still insanely impressive. What they've shown off is just completely outstanding. So I feel like this was, for me personally, my first really big wow, this is next gen moment. There was also Hellblade 2, which blew me away at the time, but that was more of a cinematic trailer. It was all in engine again, but it was it was completely cinematic. Whereas this one felt more, it's not completely real, quote, quote, gameplay, but it felt more like a gameplay segment. So that's really why this completely floored me whenever I saw it. So shout out to Epic. Unreal Engine 5 is insane. We got a bunch we can talk about in regards to that. Sony have announced their financial results for the PlayStation division for last fiscal year, which ended in March. And there's a ton of stuff out of there we can pull out. The PS4 is now over 110 million units. It's up to 110.4 million, actually. So all kinds of stuff there we can break down. And of course, there's been a ton of other gaming news as well. There's the Mafia remasters / remakes that are coming. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. I could go on and on and on. It's been a ton of news already this week in a very short period of time. So super exciting stuff. As always, for anyone that's never been in the chat before, drop your questions, drop your comments to the side. You drive what we discuss here. You drive this stream. So it's all about what you ask. Let's go ahead and start diving in because, as always, questions are already skyrocketing and mounting up. And Split End 89 with a great call out here right off the bat. So during last week's stream, I missed a live chat or a super chat. I feel super terrible for that. I don't ever want to miss a super chat. So I super apologize to Sharif, and I'm going to answer your question right off the bat, right off the top, because I never want to miss a super chat. So apologies for that. Here we go. Sharif asked last chat, how powerful of a combo is the Series S and Game Pass for Xbox in the context of economic woes? Does value trump brand loyalty to another platform? So yeah, I talked about this a bit on Twitter, and I'd love to break it down here. So I really think when Xbox One Series S, as is, the kind of rumor name we're calling it, also known as Lockhart, which is their weaker next generation Xbox platform, it's weaker than the Series X. Back when that was first announced, or I shouldn't even say announced because it hasn't been officially revealed yet, but rumored, man, I was of a mixed opinion on this. I was worried a bit that it could hold back next generation games. I was a bit concerned, about the 2 SKU strategy at launch. But the more I've thought about it, and especially as you've seen Game Pass grow, right? Game Pass is up now to over 10 million subscribers. It's up to a really big number. So as that has grown, I've actually changed my mind a bit on that. Series S is still going to have the big upgrade in CPU technology, and it's going to have the ultra fast SSD on it as well, which these seem to be the two things that are really going to impact next generation game design. The GPU is, of course, important as well, but from what it sounds like, the Lockhart goal is to basically just be running games at 1080p, right? It's not for people with, high-end 4K TV sets. It's more of like an entry-level system. And you free up a ton of GPU resources just by not going to 4K, just by doing 1080p. You're going to free up a lot of that GPU headroom. So I'm a little less concerned now about that console in terms of tech than I originally was. And also, like I said, coupling it with Game Pass, I think that the Series S could actually be a pretty big success for them. Now, obviously, your hardcore, dedicated gamers, the people like me, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get an Xbox Series X. I want the top of the line consoles. So I'm going to get a Series X and a PlayStation 5. But for a lot of people that, let's say, younger kids that are playing Minecraft or people that are just kind of playing Madden and things like this, they don't necessarily need, let's say, a $500 box. They're okay with just playing on a 1080p TV. Now, I'm not generalizing everyone here, of course, but there is a chunk of the market that's like that. So I think getting in a cheap entry-level box coupled with Game Pass, which is going to give you a big library for cheap. Yes, Sharif, to answer your question from last week, I think that Series S actually does have potential to be a pretty big success for Microsoft. So there you go. Sorry I missed that super chat last week. I'll try not to do it again. All right. Forzathon saying those Mafia screenshots. Yes, anyone that hasn't seen, they just announced today that the first 3 Mafia games, 1, 2, and 3, are all being remastered. And yeah, the screenshots actually look gorgeous. I'll be honest, when they first were like hinting towards this, I wasn't super psyched about it. I like the Mafia games, but I'm not like a huge Mafia fan. I know some people are, but I'm just kind of, I like the franchise, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But yeah, those screenshots are gorgeous. So wow, that piqued my interest a lot more than if it would have just been like a small upscale. It looks like quite the big difference. Plastic Hearts Podcast. Benji, what's happening? I thought E3 was canceled, but we're getting crazy amounts of news. Yes, and somehow it's still overlapping too. I know. Not mad at it though. Yeah, it's really interesting how this is all going to play out over the next couple months, right? It does feel like there's basically a nonstop barrage right now of news, and I kind of like it. I'm of two minds. There's something really hype about like the big, showcases all right next to each other. You just get that all in a couple days, just wave of news. There's something that is super exciting and hype about that. But there's also something to be said about, getting 1 or 2 announcements, every day or so, because it gives you more time to kind of process it, right? Let's say that this whole Unreal Engine 5 demo was just revealed and it was in the middle of the PS5 showcase, since it was shown running on a PS5. And then we were instantly to more games, right? We were just instantly to the next game and the next game and the next game in that show. You'd have less time to really think about, what all Unreal Engine 5 means and really break down and think about it. So there's also something cool about having the announcements spread out. So it's a bit of a toss-up, I think, on which one's better. I'm enjoying them both, but it is crazy that, like you said, even with spreading it out, we are still getting overlap. We're still getting, the Mafia announcements and the Unreal Engine announcements, like all happening at the same time. It's pretty crazy. Joseki. Hi, Benji. A question about Sony and Nintendo's quarterly results. Yeah, let's go into it. How come Sony's revenue is magnitudes higher than Nintendo's revenue, but Nintendo has higher profits? What are they doing different? So, Joseki, the reason Sony's revenue is so high, there's a lot you can break down with it. Big part of that is going to be through like subscriptions. It's going to be through things like, because their subscriber base is so much bigger than Nintendo's right now. It's going to be third-party sales. They're generating a ton of third-party sales on their games, right? Tons. don't get me wrong, PlayStation first party sells well, but the huge chunk of software sales you're seeing are games like Call of Duty and things like that. So actually that alone, just looking at the software, there's more to it, but what's driving Nintendo's huge software sales? It's first party. And remember, Nintendo gets basically 100% return on their first party games, right? There's going to be the retailer cut. So you're going to look at it about 30% or somewhere like that whenever you factor in the physical sales, but all digital is basically 100% coming back to Nintendo. And even those, retail sales, they're still getting a bigger chunk because they're the developer, they're the publisher, it's their game. So, when you look at Animal Crossing, when you look at Mario Kart, when you look at all these gigantic Smash Brothers, these huge selling games, they are getting so much of that money directly back to them, which is going to result in higher profit margins for their software sales. Sony is getting a cut of third-party sales on their platform, but it's not going to be the same amount that Nintendo's getting from Animal Crossing. Another thing you have to factor in is right now for PlayStation, R&D costs are going to be going up and things like that as we lead up to PlayStation 5. So stuff like that is also going to impact it. It's hard to just narrow it down to one only thing. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but that's one of the main differences, is the difference between the amount of return on your software. Sony's first-party games are selling well, but they're not selling at the pace that Nintendo's are. Hope that helps a little bit. Alex Bailey. Hi, Benji. What's your take on Tony Hawk and Mafia not getting announced for Switch during their reveals? The big surprise here to me out of those two specifically is Tony Hawk, because I think Tony Hawk would sell really good on Switch. Like, I think that would do very good on the platform. I really, really think it would. So I'll be honest, Mafia isn't hugely shocking to me. It would have been nice to see it, but I'm not I'm not shocked by it. Tony Hawk, though, I am surprised by that. Visually, Tony Hawk looks really good, like surprisingly good. Whenever they first saw it, like I saw it pop up, I wasn't watching the stream live. I saw the announcement, and it was like Tony Hawk 1 and 2 HD, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, they're remastering the games. And when I clicked on it, I did not expect the game to look anywhere near as good as it does. Like, they did a fantastic job on this because they are looking like, some quality remakes. But still, I am shocked that they're not bringing Tony Hawk to Switch. That is a shocker to me because I think that game in particular, even over Mafia, I could see Mafia doing pretty good on Switch, but I think Tony Hawk will do even better. I wouldn't rule out a Tony Hawk Switch eventually. I wouldn't rule that out. You saw Crash eventually come over to the Switch. You saw Spyro go over to the Switch. You saw Crash Team Racing on the Switch. So Activision clearly isn't opposed, to putting these games on Switch. But yeah, it's not going to happen at launch, but I think they should make it happen eventually. I think Tony Hawk would do well there. Moist and Delicious. Did everyone see the Godfall tweet? I saw the tweet, but I didn't get a chance to read it. So Moist and Delicious, I can't comment on that other than I did see that there is a new Godfall tweet. I'm not sure, though, what all it said. I didn't get a chance to read that tweet yet. I've been so crazy busy lately, as you can imagine, with all this going on. It's been hard to keep up with everything. Forzathon. Hi, Benji. Phil Spencer said that we will see the effects of COVID-19 on the game industry in early 2021. Do you think this too? And what kind of impact are we talking about? Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, Forzathon. So anyone that's kept up with my streams, you'll know that one of the things I regularly commented on several times, because I've been asked, people have been asking me what I think about the whole, pandemic for a while now. And one of the things I regularly said was that I think the games that are going to be most hurt by what's going on right now with the pandemic are the games that haven't been announced yet. I said that several times, and what Spencer's saying here actually kind of lines up with what I was thinking. And I was thinking that because keep in mind, the games that we already had announced, right? The Cyberpunks, The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, things like that. If it was already announced and the marketing cycles were already going and they were hitting in the next 6 to 8 months, those games were primarily very close to completion. Of course, there's still more work to be done in those last 6 to 8 months, but really, once you get to that time frame, you're in polishing stage, you're in bug squashing stage. The big bulk of the development cycle has already been completed. You're now just perfecting that game. And I had a feeling the games that hadn't been announced yet, that still had a lot more work to be done, they would be more hurt by this, because so much of that work is really important in those years that you don't see the game announced, because you're coming up with the concepts, you're coming up with the mechanics, you're coming up with everything that has to do with the game, right? You're not polishing it, you're in the process of fully creating it. So I always had a feeling those games that were those 2021 games, those were the ones that were going to be most hurt by this. And it does seem to be that is the case. So Phil saying that does not surprise me. I kind of had a feeling that was what was going to happen. Bart Chikasa. Does Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remaster have the chance to sell 10 million units in its lifetime? Crash Insane did 10 million as of February 2019. Bart, I'm not going to go that high yet, but I will say I don't think something like that is crazy, to be honest. Whenever you look at how big Tony Hawk was at its peak, it was a complete juggernaut, just completely gigantic. We're talking about a franchise that's generated more than $1.4 billion in sales. It's huge. Now, I'm not going to go to 10 million yet, because we've also seen with the Tony Hawk franchise, things go very poorly in recent years, right? There was Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which was just a huge underperformance in terms of sales for that franchise by in terms of its history, and also in terms of quality. You saw just a whole bunch of things with the Tony Hawk games kind of going off the rails over recent years. But these are remakes of the first two games, which are some of the most beloved, and the quality does look very good. So kind of the thing I threw out there was, I think the floor on this, provided it's even okay, not if it's terrible. If this is some 30 Metacritic game like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 was, which was 32 on Metacritic, I think, that's going to throw a huge, problem for sales. But provided it's even okay, mediocre okay, I really think it can do 5 million across PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. You're only looking there at roughly 1.5 million per platform, give or take a little bit on each one. I really think 5 million is definitely fully achievable, as long as it's okay. If it's really darn good, it could be even higher than that. But I'm not going to go to 10 million quite yet, but I'll say it's not impossible. Gorka Galdiano here. Do you think there will be an exclusive Monster Hunter for the Nintendo Switch? Why? Why not? Rumors. So we can actually piggyback this straight into something recently that Capcom said. And Capcom has just recently commented and said that they are projecting this next fiscal year to be their biggest ever in software sales. Now, a lot of that is going to come from its back catalog. So it's going to be, just continued legs of games like Resident Evil 2 and Monster Hunter and Resident Evil 3 and games like this. So a big chunk of it, they are expecting to come from their back catalog, but they also said that they're going to have several major new releases. So who knows what those are going to be? One of them, I think we're pretty much locked in, is probably going to be Resident Evil 8, right? That makes perfect sense. That's probably going to be towards the end of the fiscal year. Remember, their fiscal year runs until next March. And whenever you look at when Resident Evil 2 was released, when Resident Evil 3, remake was released, those were early in the year, right? They were those January, February, March timeframe. So I'm guessing Resident Evil 8, which is codenamed Village, from all rumors, that is probably going to be in that time slot, that January, February, March of next year of 2021. So I think that's one of the major games we can count on. I think a Switch Monster Hunter is not crazy to think it could happen. I don't want to say for sure I think it's going to, But it could, it very well could. If you look traditionally, the Monster Hunter franchise has been huge on Nintendo handhelds. Now, it didn't hit the peaks that Monster Hunter World did, but Monster Hunter World was, of course, multi-platform, which is going to help it compared to being just confined on one platform. World is the biggest Monster Hunter game ever, and it's the biggest Capcom game ever, but it was also on Xbox, PS4, and PC, so it has a much bigger install base to line up on. But Monster Hunter, even on one console, when you go back like to the 3DS and such, it's been huge on Nintendo. So Gorka, I would say, I think you will probably see another Monster Hunter on the Switch at some point. Whether that's coming this year or not, I don't know, but I think it is going to happen. Killian Butler. Hi, Benji. Do you think the Series X version of the new Xbox exclusives is just a graphics improvement or nearly a completely new game tailored for next gen, as Sony's new exclusives will likely be PS5 only? Yeah, Killian, this is going to be interesting to see how this all unravels with Microsoft. So PlayStation is definitely going to have some PS5 only games. Like, there's no doubt about that. I won't be surprised if you see a couple cross-gen games from Sony, particularly something like Ratchet and Clank. I won't be surprised at all if Ratchet and Clank is going to be PS4 and PS5. That's a game that kind of makes sense to me being on both. And it's not a game that, as beautiful as Ratchet and Clank games tend to be, it's not something that's like really pushing the hardware to like crazy limits, right? It's not something that's like this giant open world, ultra detailed thing. It's really good looking Pixar like, visuals, but it's not an ultra pusher. So I could see something like Ratchet and Clank being cross-gen, but definitely you're going to see some stuff. I'm guessing like Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I'd be shocked if that's cross-gen. That is more than likely next-gen only. God of War, those kind of games are probably only going to be on next-gen, whereas Microsoft, at least for the next year or so, they've said their first-party games are going to be cross-gen. They're going to be on Xbox One, and they're going to be on next-gen. So it's going to be very interesting to see, visually, game design, what the differences are there. I'd say it's too early for us to make a concrete conclusion in terms of how much better or worse, something will perform being cross-gen or not. We still have a lot to see. Here's one thing we can say. Those SSDs are going to make a huge difference. Anyone that saw the Unreal Engine 5 showcase today, that final shot that you see, which is utterly insane, of the character that's like soaring through the environment, the detail is just unbelievable. It's at high speed. The pop in is like non-existent. It's crazy. And part of why that's attainable is super fast SSDs, because you can just load in so much so fast. And that's like kind of a core you're like building around that. So it will be interesting to see. I don't want to make Killian Butler any huge, sweeping statements until we see the Sony showcase and the Xbox first party showcase. We'll have a much stronger idea then. But I don't want to make a concrete comment yet because it's hard to say. Until we see those first party games from both, we just don't truly know. Can be. We know Unreal Engine is compatible with a number of platforms for sure. But how significant is it that today's demo was specifically shown on a PS5 and not Xbox Series X or PC? Ken, it tells me that there was some sort of marketing deal around this, I think. The fact it's on a PS5 specifically, it's hard to know exactly why. Xbox Series X, from all rumors, seems like it's going to be just not even rumors. We have the specs. But it seems it's going to be just as capable as PS5 and in some ways even more capable. Now, in some ways less capable, right? The Series X doesn't have as fast of an SSD as the PlayStation 5 has. It does, however, have a higher teraflop count. So there's going to be trade-offs there. But like I said, it's basically as capable in some ways, more capable in some ways, and slightly, or not even slightly, the SSD speed is pretty significant. But again, just like I commented on the first party games, it is hard to make concrete conclusions here because we have seen so little natively running on these platforms, right? So in terms of the significance that it was on the PS5, I'm guessing it's not a tech reason. I think this is probably some sort of marketing thing that's been worked out between Sony and Epic. But I can't say for sure, right? Until we see those games, we have seen very little actually running on a Series X or a PS5. So it's hard to make grand statements about either one yet. I think anyone that's going out there and just declaring things, they need to wait. We have not seen enough yet. We need to see more. The Bigelow 25. Interesting that they talked around the Series X and just said next gen. Yeah, exactly, Bigelow. Like I said, I think it's a marketing deal. Now, the full thing about that is there some sort of marketing deal that's going to be around a game as well. Maybe Epic is working on something besides Fortnite, and maybe they have a full-on marketing deal going on. I mean, it's possible, right? It is fully possible. Now, Epic is a publisher, obviously, but you still work out marketing deals with publishers, right? Ubisoft's a publisher, but Microsoft has a marketing deal on Assassin's Creed with that. So maybe this is our first hint that there's a big marketing deal going on between Sony and Epic. It's entirely possible. We've seen it a bit actually already with Fortnite, but maybe there's more to it as well. Benji. Hi, Benji. Sony seemed to ramp up marketing and communication big time. You notice it's starting. It's really starting. Can Microsoft afford to communicate as late as July? By then, the PS5 could already become the next gen in people's mind. Benji, this is a really good comment because how things have changed. Let me get a drink really quick. I'm really thirsty, but this is a good comment because it's very interesting. All right. How things have changed so quickly. So we've been talking for a while, the whole internet, whether you're in this chat, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on forums, we've been talking for a while how it's been kind of surreal, how Sony has been so quiet for so long. Now, all of a sudden we have this. Tomorrow, we have a Ghost of Tsushima State of Play that's going to be long. It's like 18 minutes of gameplay. Rumor is that June 4th is the PlayStation 5 showcase, which is only a couple weeks away, right? We're like 3 weeks out from that. Like, it is very interesting. It's a good point, Benji. Sony seems to have gone from silence to ramping up quick now, very quickly. So it will be very interesting to see how that unfolds. Benji, I don't think Microsoft can be fully quiet until July. They're definitely going to have to say some stuff. Keep in mind, they said that they're doing things every single month with this whole Xbox 2020 thing, right? So there's going to be something in June coming up. The rumor is it's going to be something around content and services in June. Benji, I don't think they're going to move up their first-party showcase at all. There's way too much work that goes into that, way too much planning. They have trailers they have to get ready. They have gameplay demos they have to get ready, right? There's just way too much work to move that out of July. Like, I think they're pretty much dead set for July on their first party, but they definitely can't be quiet now, especially now that Sony is really ramping up. So, you're going to hear some stuff out of them in June, but I wouldn't expect that first party showcase to shift out of July. But it is interesting. Sony's coming strong now. Kyle Borchardt. Hey, Benji, hello. Is there some irony that PS5 showed gameplay without having a conference just days after the Xbox gameplay reveal? It's a bit of a yes and no. One thing to remember, Kyle, is that while this is gameplay, it's not of a real game. We do have to keep that in mind. But I will say that in terms of marketing, it is a little ironic that we saw like a much bigger in-game segment here than we saw of anything at Inside Xbox. We did see some gameplay, snippets and stuff, but nothing that was near as long as this that was like in-game. But again, it is important to note that this is not a real game, right? It's just a demo. So I would say yes and no. There's definitely a bit of irony to it, but it's not the same as, like, let's say it would have been this exact same thing, and instead of being like a tech demo, it was them showing Days Gone 2 on Unreal Engine 5. Then, yeah, that would be like some real irony. If it was like, 10 straight minutes of Days Gone 2 on Unreal Engine 5, then for sure. But since it's just a tech demo, I will cut them a little bit of slack on that. The Bigelow 25. Doesn't Microsoft heavily use Unreal Engine 4? Yes, Bigelow. Microsoft first-party studios are huge fans of Unreal Engine. So today is actually, even though it was shown running on the PS5, for Xbox fans, this is pretty exciting because a ton of their studios use Unreal Engine. The Coalition uses it. The Initiative is using Unreal Engine for their game. I believe Playgrounds RPG they're working on. I think, if I'm wrong here, I'm so sorry, but I think that their game is running on Unreal Engine as well. So yeah, Bigelow, Microsoft seems to be a big fan of Unreal Engine. So while this was demoed on the PS5, good news for Xbox fans is you saw a look at an engine that a lot of Xbox games will be running on eventually. Now, keep in mind, Unreal Engine 5 doesn't release until 2021, like fully. So it'll be a few years before you really see these Unreal Engine 5 games. You're still definitely going to see a lot of Unreal Engine 4 over the next year or two. But for those, like, let's say 2023 games and such, that's really exciting. I'm sure you'll even start to see some games pop up in like 2022 on Unreal Engine 5, but it will be a bit. It's going to be a bit before we get there. Forzathon. Hey, Benji, what's your take on EA's scummier version of smart delivery? It is what it is. I don't know what else to say there, honestly. It is what it is. Am I a bit disappointed that it's not full-scale smart delivery like what we're seeing out of, other games like Cyberpunk? Yeah, it's definitely a bit disappointing. I won't, rake EA over the coals over it because at least they're still doing it somewhat, for a limited time where you can still upgrade to the next-gen version. So, I won't put EA on full blast, but I will say it's definitely a disappointment that it's not the same as just the full-on smart delivery. That's definitely a bit of a bummer. I would really like to see almost all publishers really embrace, that full smart delivery. Oh, Sharif saying thanks to Split End for calling it out. Again, I'm so sorry, Sharif. I'm so sorry that I missed your super chat. I never want to do that, so I apologize. Kieran Buckley. Do you know if there's any more news on the IGN digital presentation this summer? I'm more excited for that than Summer Games Fest. Haven't heard any updates on that yet. You're going to hear a bunch of news. I mean, if you look at this week as any indicator, look at how much news we've already gotten in just a few days. I mean, it's going to be like a nonstop barrage over the next few months. Of course, you're going to have days that aren't as exciting as others. But when you think about it, think about how much gets announced at E3, right? If you go between the Ubisoft show, the Sony show traditionally, I know they haven't in the past couple of years, but traditionally the Xbox show, the Nintendo show, the EA show, you can just go on and on. Think about how many announcements are in there in 3-4 days. Think about that. It's crazy. If you just do 1 or 2 announcements a day, I mean, that gets you a ton of time of announcements, right? It gives you a ton. So I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more about the IGN showcase here soon. They haven't given us any big updates yet, but I mean, we're going to be getting news all the time right now. Definitely every week we're going to be getting a bunch. So haven't had any updates on that yet, but you will soon, I'm sure. Danger Man. With new engine, we'll say Unreal Engine using XGS be able to transfer their project to it and see improvements for it. Would be interesting to see the effect. That's a really great question. So I'm guessing you're saying, would Xbox Game Studios be able to take, let's say, Gears of War 5 and just put that on Unreal Engine 5 and see, instant improvements? I don't really know all the details on something like that. That's way over my head. I'm not a developer, so that's way over my head. I'm sure that some of the assets and stuff would transfer fine. I don't know, though, that you could take like a full-on game and just easily port it over to the other engine. I'm guessing it would take a little bit more work than that, but I could be totally wrong, right? Like I said, I'm not a dev. I'm a guy who knows about the sales and the business side, less so much of the development side. So I'm not sure. I will say that a lot of the work that people have done in Unreal Engine, it will probably easily transfer over to 5, but I don't know that you could just take a full game and port it over to 5. I don't know that you could do that. Fintendo. Hi, Benji. How well do you think the Tony Hawk remasters will do? Will they have the good longevity like Crash? Just commented on this. My opinion is going to be 5 million and up for Tony Hawk. We just need to see the quality and stuff before we can compare it to something like Crash, which just did utterly phenomenal. Like someone mentioned earlier, over 10 million in sales. I'm not going to go that high yet. I want to see some more first, but I think 5 million is definitely achievable. Ralph Muster. Hi, Benji. Even before the crisis, Nintendo was pretty coy about their software plans. Yes. Do you think this has to do with the other two being the same? Yeah, Nintendo has been a bit quiet even before, like you said, even before the pandemic. Like their news for this year has been a bit quiet. I'm not sure what's going on over there. Now, we do know that the work from home thing has affected Nintendo. Jeff Grubb, who's been right on the money lately with his reporting, talked about that, and he's been dead on. So I definitely believe him. So that definitely affected their plans. But like you said, even before that, Nintendo was pretty quiet about 2020. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if just their development pipeline has been a little messed up, or if really they were going to come out with a ton of announcements early in this year and the crisis affected them. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's interesting. I do think they need to make some pretty big announcements soon, right? I mean, like I've said before, Xenoblade coming up is awesome. It's really cool to see, but they need more than Xenoblade, and they've said they have more. There's the rumored Mario remasters and remakes, so they definitely need to get out there and make some sort of announcements here pretty soon. Isma0612. How is the Switch and PS4 Xbox One tracking in the US so far in May? Great question, Isma. So here's what I can say. We're still pretty early in the month. We're only the 13th, so I'm not going to do like my really big sales predictions here for the NPD, right? I usually do those at the end of the month when I feel really good about where things have shaken out because I can see like the whole picture. Right now, things are still tracking big, Isma, but actually down from April. Still big. It's actually May is still tracking really good, but down from April. Unless something really changes here at the end of the month, let's say the second half of the month, I think you're going to see May NPD for everyone across the board be quite a bit lower than April, but still really good, still really, really strong, but just less. One of the big things that's hurting everyone right now is shortages. I talked about this on Twitter. Even PlayStation and Xbox now are in a mass shortage situation. That doesn't mean that there's no stores with it. It just means like a lot of stores and a lot of companies are out of inventory. I don't think Sony or Microsoft ever anticipated the volume of sales that they're seeing at the beginning of this year. So they didn't have production anywhere near ready to deal with that surge. So, yeah, shortages are really going to affect May, like really hard. Actually, shortages are going to affect May more than they affected like April, I think. Stuart O'Connor. Epic says the engine is released in 2021. Does that mean current developers don't have Unreal Engine 5 yet, and therefore we shouldn't expect games of that quality from third parties until 2023 or 2024? Stuart, I would say at large, yes. I would not expect to see Unreal Engine 5 games that look like this from like tons of third parties until, pretty late. Like I said, 2023, 2024 sounds right. Now, here's what I will say. There probably is a couple people that actually do already have some access to Unreal Engine 5. I don't think it's at large scale yet, but I would not be surprised at all if you see a couple teams that Epic has teamed up with to help them, right? Because getting that developer feedback of the engine also helps drive the engine creation process. You see a lot of companies that have talked about that, how actually building games on the engine itself is, of course, going to directly influence design. So I would not be surprised at all if you see someone like maybe the Coalition, right? They have a very tight relationship with Epic because of a couple reasons. A, they make Gears of War, which used to belong to Epic, right? That was an Epic IP. And also, they're really good at pushing the engine to its limits. Gears 5 on Unreal Engine 4 is just, gorgeous. It's one of the best looking games there is out there. I don't know if I'd put it number one, but it's definitely one of the better looking games out there. So Stuart, I wouldn't be surprised, if there's a couple teams, just a few that already have some sort of access to 5. But yeah, in terms of just like broad scale where everyone has access to it, it's not going to be there yet. Kyle Borchardt, it's already been confirmed as gameplay. Yeah. Epic was bringing that same demo to GDC before it got canceled. I didn't know this. Attendees would be able to play it on a PS5. That is exciting, Kyle. I actually had no idea that they had announced that it was going to be actually fully playable on a PS5. That is very cool. So yeah, it's even more direct gameplay, not from a game, but gameplay than I even knew. Joseki, Xenoblade preview dropped today, and they are unsurprisingly glowing. The original game is a 90+ Metacritic, and previews agree they improved it a lot. How is it currently tracking? Joseki, I have not seen much tracking on Xenoblade at all, so I can't actually comment a ton on early tracking. I'll say that's exciting. I've never played the original Xenoblade. I'm planning on picking that thing up day one, so that's super exciting to hear. I have not seen a ton of pre-release tracking on Xenoblade, though. I hope to have more information on that soon, but as of now, I don't have a ton. Benji. Sony said 66% of games sold last quarter were digital. How crazy is that? Insane. Could those huge digital sales speed up the transition to full digital? Yes, Benji. The answer to that question is 100% yes. Now, we have to remember, it was at 66% really because of this pandemic, right? That's really the reason you saw this huge jump. That 66% for the last quarter only raised the year up to, I think it was 51% for the last year. So it did raise it over that half, that 50-50 threshold. But it was really driven that high thanks to, I shouldn't even say thanks. Well, it is thanks, but it's a disturbing thing to be thanks for. But the pandemic is really what pushed it there. You're not going to see it at 66%, I don't think next quarter or the quarter after that. But will it drive digital adoption? I mean, absolutely. You're just getting people that don't normally buy games digital now getting into that ecosystem. So it's definitely going to increase it. But I wouldn't expect all of a sudden from now on 66% and higher. HDWJNNEP. Hey, Benji, how long do you think the PS4 will continue to sell after the PS5 releases? How many units and software will the PS4 end up selling? Good question. So here's where we're at. PS4 is now up to, as of March, the end of the fiscal year, it was at 110.4 million consoles shipped total worldwide since launch, 110 million PS4s. PS4 will pass 120 million sometime in 2021. I don't know exactly when. I don't think it'll happen this year, because sales are going to dip, towards this holiday, especially with the PS5 releasing. It's unrealistic to expect the PS4 to sell at the end of the year like it has in previous holidays. So I'd be surprised if they hit that 120 million this year, but they should get there next year. The question is, how much higher than that is it going to go? It's hard to make an exact prediction because PS5 is not on the market yet, right? Does PS5 completely kill PS4 and it just falls off a cliff, or does it continue to sell really healthily after the PS5 launches? We don't know the exact answer to that. Here's what I'll say. I think it should be able to reach, over 130 million. I think it will get there. I really do, because I think they'll be at 120 million next year. So I think they can squeeze out another 10 million after that. I don't know, though, that if you'll see it go past that. I think 140 and up is unreachable. I just really do, with PS5 coming here. So I'm going to say, as a guess, educated guess, but guess, lifetime probably somewhere over 130 for PS4. The Notorious saying, change your name to Benji, bring the hype. I'll take it. I'm a really positive guy in terms of games. I really hate negativity. I think it's just completely boring. Like that's my description of it. What is the point? I fully do not understand the point of being negative. Like, don't you want to enjoy life? Don't you want to enjoy your hobbies? Don't you want to enjoy things? Being a positive, trying to put that positivity out there will reinforce positivity, right? I don't believe in being needlessly positive, right? Let's say someone makes a terrible decision. Let's say that that Activision came out tomorrow and they said, you know what? Every game now costs $100. Every game now has $100 season pass. Yeah, I'd blast them, something like that. Yeah, but these so many people are so needlessly negative about things. There's just no reason to be. Like, there's just no reason. Why be negative? Like, what are you accomplishing? Bring that positivity, bring that hype. It makes life a lot more enjoyable than being miserable. Forzathon. Any news on Babylon's Fall and Crossfire X? It's been a long time since we've heard anything. I've heard nothing new on those Forzathon. Absolutely nothing. I haven't heard a word. I hope we hear something soon because, like you said, they're both kind of MIA, especially Babylon's Fall, right? We've seen like almost nothing on that game. So hopefully we hear something soon. Danger Man 1337 saying, here in the UK, there's fairly cheap 1080p TVs being sold. So Series S Lockhart makes sense. I agree, especially because Lockhart, like I said, has that. It has the CPU. It has the SSD. Now, if it was lacking something like that, let's say they really pared back the GPU and they said, well, to bring price down, there's no SSD. I would be fully against it because I think it would really harm game design. Because all the things that the developers are saying, like all of them, they're saying the biggest thing that's most important right now in these consoles is the CPU jump and the SSD jump. Again, that doesn't mean that we should just ignore the GPU. GPU is definitely important as well, but it's just like less of a game changer than the other two things. So I think it having those other benefits definitely makes it more viable. And as long as you bring that resolution down to 1080p, again, the difference between 1080p and 4K is a huge processing difference. So yeah, I'm more on board with Lockhart now than I was. Definitely, for sure. I was actually, frankly, kind of straight up against it when the rumors first started. I wasn't a fan, but I'm more for it now than I was. Red Dead series. CEO of Epic said PS5's SSD is far ahead of high-end PCs. Yeah, it is. It really is. And will help drive future PC. I agree with him. This makes me wonder how open world game design will look. Well, Red Dead, I think you saw a tease of it in this gameplay segment that we just saw. Again, that last shot, some people don't realize how mind-blowing that was. I mean, seriously, if you go back and you watch it in really high detail, like not the Twitter compression or something like that, like watch a really high quality stream of it, the amount of detail on the assets in that huge environment at that crazy fast speed, I think that was definitely a hint of it. Red Dead. Open world games are really going to be the ones that benefit the most from that SSD. They really are. A lot of games are going to benefit, right? Fighting games will still benefit. Shooting games will still benefit. Like, everything's going to benefit from SSDs, but those open world games, the ability to just almost instantly draw those really high-end assets, that makes such a difference. Whenever you have this huge environment and you're rendering so much at once, one of the main inhibitors on that is just, frankly, how quick you can load things in. But being able to just instantly throw those high quality assets in there, yeah, Red Dead, you're going to see some crazy stuff. I bet Horizon Zero Dawn 2, for example, is going to look nuts. That's going to be crazy. Diego A. I'm not jumping to next gen for now, but if they announce Series S, I buy it day one. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people say that. And what's interesting is I've seen a lot of people, like my followers on Twitter, I've seen a lot of them that are like PS5, like focused people, like they're going to buy a PS5. They're like, actually, my plan is to get a PS5 and a Series S, which makes sense to me, right? Series S makes a good secondary console, I think, if you have a PS5, because you have your PS5 to really focus on like all of your multi-platform games. I'm saying if you're in the Sony side of the camp, you have that for your multi-platforms. You have that for your graphics pushing stuff. but you still have like a cheaper Xbox. Like if you still want to play Halo and you still want to experience Forza and things like that, you can still get into that Xbox ecosystem without buying, another $500 console. Being able to get one, let's say for $300, $200 to a lot of people is a lot of money. I've seen some people kind of downplay a $200 gap. For a lot of people, $200 is a lot of money. And this is just guessing. There's a $200 difference. Carnage Ghost. How long have we been going? 50 minutes? We still got time, baby. Carnage Ghost. Hello there, Benji. Do you think developers will realize the huge demand for higher frame rate? Ooh, this is interesting. And make it industry standard to choose. By the way, that or higher resolution. Great question, Carnage. I have seen a lot of people getting up in arms, especially about Assassin's Creed Valhalla over the 30 FPS thing. I kind of said it on Twitter. Some people are not going to like to hear it, but there's still going to be a lot of 30 FPS games next gen. This demo that was shown today, it was at 30 FPS. Here's the deal. You will definitely see more 60 FPS games next gen, Carnage Ghost. I think there's no doubt about that. The jump in CPU alone is going to help more games hit 60 FPS. But at the end of the day, it's a developer choice. You're choosing, and a lot of devs are going to choose to focus as much as possible on squeezing out every level of detail they can. That's just the reality out of it. There is a lot of devs that choose that. They just do. So I think you'll see a lot of 60 FPS games next gen, but people should not just instantly expect everything's going to be 60 FPS because it's a developer choice. I do think, though, Carnage Ghost, that a lot of people are making their voices heard, that they do care about 60 FPS. So I think you will see a lot. There are going to be a lot of 60 FPS games next gen. I think basically all big shooters will be 60 FPS. I think you'll see very few 30 FPS shooters. We're already kind of getting that way towards the end of this generation. The last few years, a lot of them have been 60 FPS. But I think you're going to see that basically as a universal standard. Something like shooters, 100%. I think racing games, you still see a few racing games that hit that 30 FPS. I think you're going to see basically all racing games at 60 FPS. But let's say like these big open world games, I think a lot of them will still be 30. There might be the odd 60 FPS game out there, but I think 30 is going to be, the standard for those types of games. Again, not across the board, but for like those big open world games. Pesto Enthusiast. I had a question last time about whether XCOM Chimera Squad was an indication that XCOM 3 was due holiday 2020. But right after I asked, I got a call and had to dip. Did you answer that? I did, Pesto. I don't think so. You never know. XCOM 3 could be coming, but I don't think it's coming this holiday. I do think it's a game that's 100% going to happen. But I wouldn't expect it this holiday. It's probably going to be a little bit later than 2020. Zero the Silent Hero. Whoops. My scroll bar just lost that question. Zero the Silent Hero. Hey, Benji, I just read the Verge article where Sweeney talks about the close collaboration between Sony and Epic on Unreal Engine 5 and PS5. What's your opinion on that? Zero, I talked about this earlier. My guess is that there's some sort of definite marketing thing going on there. I'm not saying marketing as in like he's lying and saying Sony haven't been collaborating. I'm not saying that at all. I'm sure Sony has been. What I mean is I have a feeling there's a larger marketing plan going on there, right? Probably around Fortnite. We already saw a bit of that on the PS4 and maybe even another game. Think about it. Epic has a lot of freaking money right now because Fortnite has driven so much money. And I'm sure that the main focus over there is still on supporting Fortnite, but I would not be shocked at all if Epic have something else big in the works as well. I mean, with the kind of money they have, they can fund just about anything they want. So maybe there's some sort of big marketing deal on another game coming too. I could totally see that. Silence PP7. Do you think good sales receptions for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 could lead to a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake as well? Absolutely could happen, Silence PP7. I just wonder if it'll be another remake or if they'll go straight into a new, like brand new Tony Hawk if 1 and 2 do really well. I don't know. You'll definitely get more Tony Hawk, though, if so. I just don't know if it's going to go more remakes or if they're going to say, hey, we got the first 2 remakes done. Let's do a full scale, new, like built from the ground up Tony Hawk. I don't know. But if it does well, you'll definitely see more Tony Hawk. That's for darn sure. Clark saying they got to tune out for a conference call. You rock, man. Thank you for the kind words, Clark. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dark Detective, talking about the Phil Spencer comment. Let me read the full thing here, though. Phil Spencer said COVID-19's real impact on games will come in 2021. What consequences do you think that will have? How will that affect PS5 and Xbox Series X sales and cross-gen? Ooh, this is good. And cross-gen software strategies long term. Yeah, we talked about how I wasn't surprised that happened. But man, it could affect really those first, next couple months of next gen. Here's what I will say, Dark Detective. It's a darn good thing these consoles are backwards compatible, right? It's a darn good thing, especially with pandemic, kind of hurting development. Thank God that these consoles are going to be backwards compatible, because that will help fill in the gaps a little bit, right? It's a bummer that you might see some games that currently are internally being delayed, but at least you will have access to that older library of games. So you're still going to have a ton of stuff you can play. You just might have not as much new stuff as you wanted. So Dark, I don't think it's the end of the world for console sales because of that. Could hurt some publishers though. I could see this actually hurting publishers more than it hurts the consoles, because if it's early 2020 when this really affected, a lot of the hardcore fans are still going to be buying in early on the gen. So I don't think it will hurt the hardware sales as much potentially as it hurts the publishers. It could really hurt publishers. Arkham Knight saying hello. Hello, Arkham Knight. After seeing Unreal 5, I am really wondering why Sony first-party studios even bother and waste time creating custom engines. Ooh, this is interesting. When Unreal Engine is so good. Same goes for id Software. It's actually a really, really good comment, Arkham Knight. Unreal Engine has gotten crazy. Unreal Engine's always been a good engine, but when you push it to its limits, kind of like how I talked about earlier with Gears 5, I mean, man, Unreal Engine can produce some staggeringly good results. Arkham Knight, you are starting to see a little bit of Sony first-party studio getting in on that, right? Days Gone. Days Gone was an Unreal Engine game. I suspect now that they're used to that engine, total guess, but I suspect that Days Gone 2 is probably going to be an Unreal Engine game. So you may actually start to see more of Sony's teams go that route. There's definitely going to always be internal engines. If you look at Decima, the Decima engine is just completely freaking nuts. So, of course, they're still going to always have some internal stuff. But like with Microsoft, a lot of their teams have moved over to Unreal Engine. You still have Halo, for example, that has its own new engine called the Slipstream or Slipspace engine. But you are seeing more and more and more teams go that way. Look at Square Enix. Square Enix used to love building these gigantic, expensive engines. I mean, they were notorious for it. And now, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy VII Remake have moved over to Unreal Engine. So Arkham Knight, I will not be shocked if next gen you see more of their internal teams on Unreal 5. Would not shock me 1%. Not at all. Benji, it seems Unreal Engine 5 is highly scalable. Yes, that's what they say. Epic mentions next-gen, current-gen consoles and mobile. Yep, makes sense. Could this mean we will get more next-gen ports on Switch than with current-gen games? Possible, Benji, but they did not mention Switch unless I missed it. So it is scalable. So that is the good news here. The bad news, unless I missed it, is that Epic did not specifically mention Switch. So I would say don't rule it out, but I also wouldn't put huge bets on it either until we hear more about how that's working on Switch specifically. Pesto saying, man whose living is based on covering game news is excited by more game news. Actually, Pesto, this is not what I make my living on. If you're talking about me, I don't make much money doing this at all. The only money that I make on this is the super chats, which I'm hugely thankful for. But I'm not a journalist. I'm not employed full-time on doing this. And all of the industry research stuff I do is completely on my own time. I actually work in retail. Like, I work for a retailer. That's what my job is. That's what my 9 to 5 daily job is. Has nothing to do with covering games. I'm just super excited about games because I love them. Like, it's my passion. I've been doing games ever since I was a little kid, but nah, it ain't my, it's not my living. I hope one day it is. Like, that's the goal. Long term, I hope, that's what we're working towards. Maybe in 5 years or something, I can do that. But as of now, Pesto, nope. I'm just a retail employee that also has a passion for covering games, but it's just a passion thing for now. That's it. Javier Macias Leon. Hi, Benji. How long do you think we will have to wait until we see games that look as good as the Unreal Engine 5 demo? I don't think long for first-party games. I think you're going to see like those PlayStation first-party games, even those Xbox first-party games, the Coalition, the Initiative. I don't think you'll have to wait long, Javier, to see first-party stuff like that. Probably not long at all. In fact, you might see it in a couple weeks at Sony's showcase. In terms of like third-party multi-platform games, it is going to be a while. You might see a few standouts like that, but most games are not going to look at that level still for a full, for a couple of years. And a big part of that is that a ton of the multi-platform games that are in development right now are going to be cross-gen, right? You're seeing that with Assassin's Creed. You're seeing that with Watch Dogs Legion. I'm sure Batman that's going to be announced will probably be cross-gen. So it's like, it will be a while before you see like industry-wide games hitting at this level. But in terms of first party, I don't think you'll have to wait long. Don't think you're going to have to wait long at all. Like I said, it could be just a few weeks. It looks like we have a super chat. Let me check that out really quick. I always want to give a shout out to the super chats. Let me scroll down. Oh, we got 2 of them. Split End 89, thank you as always, Split End. You are awesome. Thank you for modding the channel, and thank you for the super chat. It means the world to me. And also Matt Duffy here with another super chat. Thank you, Matt. Both of you are completely awesome. Thank you so much for the support. As I always say on these streams, no one ever feel pressured to give to the super chat. Never. I don't want anyone to feel pressured. I try to get to as many questions as possible no matter what. But I do appreciate the support. Thank you, Split End, and thank you, Matt Duffy. You're both awesome. And then Javier also saying, I'm really hyped to see Ghost of Tsushima gameplay tomorrow. Yeah, me too. I am very curious about the combat. Same, Javier. For a game that's about to come out, we've seen very little gameplay on Ghost of Tsushima. There was that big E3 presentation, but we haven't seen a ton. So it's the right time. I'm glad that we're about to get a big drop on it. So I agree. We still got about 15 minutes because there's still a lot of questions. I'm going to go for about 15 more minutes, and we'll call it a stream. But we still got 15. Matthias Souza. Just want to say I really like your content. Thank you so much. And I'm happy that you're getting more range and popularity. Thank you. Thank you. It's humbling. Keep it up. Cheers from Brazil. Everyone from Brazil is always so kind. They really are. I just want to say I have a lot of people on Twitter and on YouTube that will comment that are from Brazil. And you're all always super, super nice to me. So thank you. It's humbling. I'm still pretty small by YouTube scale. I'm getting bigger on Twitter. We're almost to 10,000 followers on Twitter now. But to me, I look at it as that's people that are passionate about gaming. It's not about me. You don't follow me, I don't think, unless you're passionate about games. So it's awesome. Super, super awesome. Unknown saying, I hope this demo becomes a full-fledged game. It would be sweet. That game looks super sick. I loved the way it looked. I'd love to see it. Rarely do these tech demos become full games. It's not unheard of, actually, though. It has happened before. It's rare, though, but I'd be down. I thought the art style and stuff looked sweet, so it would be cool. Exile N saying Knack 3 is going to look insane on Unreal Engine 5. Let's do it. Knack 3 Unreal Engine. Split End. Glad Sony was smart to set expectations for tomorrow's state of play. Yes. It's all Ghost of Tsushima, baby. Yes. Smart. That would have been a huge mistake if they didn't set any sort of expectation and they just said tune in for State of Play tomorrow on Thursday, because everyone would have lost their minds thinking this was the PS5 one. Everyone would have went completely crazy. Yes, I agree, Split End. They said it's fully focused on Ghost of Tsushima, and they also said there ain't going to be any PS5 news here. So yes, that was the right call. It would have been a bad move to not set expectations, because people would have, like I said, they would have thought we were about to get this big PS5 thing. Where are we at? Forzathon with a comic recommendation. Northlanders. Ooh, if you like Viking and Norse stuff, this is just great. And Corey Barlog recommended it on his Twitter too. I will look into that for sure. Northlanders. I like comics, and also, yeah, Norse stuff is sweet. Thank you for the recommendation, Forzathon. I will definitely check that out. That sounds awesome. Let's see, where are we at? We got some more game stuff here. Zero the Silent Hero. I missed your last stream, so I don't know if this was asked, but what do you think about the omissions from that page of developers working with Xbox? Ready at Dawn, House Marquee, etc. PS partners, maybe. Yes, I think it's actually rumored, Zero the Silent Hero, that at least one of those could be working on a PS5 exclusive. I think House Marquee is rumored to be on a PS5 exclusive. So, yeah, would not surprise me, Zero the Silent Hero. Don't shock me at all. Holy cow, we got 2 more super chats dropping in here. Let me get on those really quick. Let me get on those. I always want to give the shout out. Benji, thank you so much. Benji's in every stream, it seems like. Thank you so much, Benji. You are awesome for the super chat. And Stuart O'Connor as well. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. It's humbling. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. All right. Sorry, I'm just looking through some of these, trying to get to questions since we're running on time, short on time. There's a lot of good comments in here. I just want to answer a few more, legit, like full on questions. Armador saying, what about Switch US sales in April? I commented on that on a previous stream, but if you weren't here, April is going to be a record-setting performance for the Switch. It will break the current gen record in hardware sales, unless something crazy happens. And like, I'm usually not off like that. Occasionally I'll be off like a little bit with a prediction. It's pretty rare I'm like massively off with a prediction. So Artemore, everything I'm seeing points to a current gen record setting performance from the Switch. So expect big things in April. I don't think it's going to be as big as March was. I don't think, you never know, but I don't think it's going to be at that level, but still huge record setter. Hey, Benji, do you think the PS5's SSD tech will enable the flying part of the Unreal Engine 5 demo to only be possible on the PS5? I don't think only the PS5, because, the Series X still has a crazy fast SSD. It's not as fast as the PS5's is, but it is very, very fast. It's still much faster than your average SSD. So I think what you saw with that Unreal Engine demo would be capable of happening on the Series X as well. It just could be a situation. It is possible. We don't know. But it is possible that maybe the PS5 will be able to push a little bit further with that kind of thing than the Series X can, because its SSD is faster. So I wouldn't phrase it as that's only possible on the PS5, because again, remember the Series X SSD is super fast. It's just that the PS5 may have an advantage in certain situations because of that SSD. It is possible. Like, you can't rule that out. Split at 89 saying, interestingly, Sony seemed to say their development cycles are largely unaffected in their reports today. Yes. Here's to hoping. Yes, that's good news. A, they said that their games are still on track. And B, they also said that the PS5 is still fully on track for the holiday. I think we're locked, folks. I don't think anyone needs to worry about consoles missing the end of the year at this point. Both Sony and Microsoft seem way too set on it. They seem way too locked in. So we're good in terms of getting, our next gen consoles at the end of the year. It's definitely going to happen. Benji, what's your take on PlayStation Studios? Just marketing or a change of direction? I really like the branding. I think it's cool. You saw a lot of people online that were like, doing the whole, it's like Microsoft, it's like Marvel. It's definitely like Marvel. I don't think any of us can deny that. It definitely has that Marvel feel. But you know what? What's the phrase? It says something like, this isn't exactly right, but it's basically saying that, or its imitation is the best form of flattery. I think that's fine. It's okay if it kind of looks like the Marvel intro reel. If anything, it's just paying a compliment to Marvel. Same thing with Xbox. That works super well. Any of us that are Marvel fans, whenever you go to see a Marvel movie and that, opening Marvel crawl happens, it's so hype. I mean, every single time I'm at a Marvel movie in the movie theater, as soon as that starts, I'm ready to go. I'm amped up. I'm like, all right, it's Marvel time, baby. I like that. Whenever a new PS4 exclusive comes out, you're going to get that kind of intro and get really excited about it. So I think it's good branding. In terms of, is it a change of direction? Here's what we know. We know that Sony's first-party studios work very closely together. They all share technology with each other. They're very tightly knit. They're like, really, Sony's first-party studios are kind of like a family. And you're seeing that also start to happen on the Xbox side as well. So I don't know that's necessarily a change of direction, other than it's kind of like sending that message, like they're separate studios, but they're really one team that are creating this content for PlayStation. So I think it's more just kind of like backing up where they're already at. But I think it's good branding. I like it. Silence PP7 saying a new Splinter Cell was heavily rumored some years ago and was in the big Walmart leak. Do you see Splinter Cell making a return next gen, or is it a dead IP now? I definitely think Splinter Cell is coming back. How it's coming back, Silence PP7, I really don't know. I don't know in what capacity or what, but there's too much demand for a Splinter Cell. There's not many stealth games out there. So in terms of competition, it's not very high. I do think you're going to see Splinter Cell come back. When, I don't know. I don't think it's soon. You've seen some really reliable people like Jason Schreier comment, not even that far back, that Splinter Cell wasn't in development. So it could be now, but it would have entered development recently. So I do think you'll see Splinter Cell, but it might be a while still. Forzathon, do you think Beyond Good and Evil 2 will finally show up at Ubisoft Forward? I do, Forzathon. I 100% think that game is at Ubisoft Forward, because we've all kind of suspected that was a next-gen game, right? Even from the day it was announced, I think most of us thought, yep, this is a next-gen game. There was no platforms ever announced for it. They just showed it and then nothing else. So I think we've all suspected this is a next-gen game, and now that we're almost to next gen, Forzathon, you'll definitely see something Beyond Good and Evil 2 there. I'm almost positive on it. All right, we got just a couple minutes left here. Silence PP7 saying there was a report that Take-Two wanted faster releases from Rockstar. Yep, we've talked about this. Is that more or less likely after Dan Houser's exit? And what games could you see? Manhunt or Bully, or simply more Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto? You're definitely going to get Red Dead 3. You're definitely going to get Grand Theft Auto 6. But yes, I would like to see some smaller projects, especially Bully. People have wanted another Bully for so long. So long people have wanted one. It's a much smaller scale project, so I'd love to see it. It sounds like their next game really is Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, that's going to be the next release. But between Grand Theft Auto and the next Red Dead 3, I would love to see, they're going to call it probably Red Dead Redemption 3. I realize that Red Dead Redemption 2 was already the third game in the franchise, but considering they called it Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, Redemption 3 is probably going to be the next one. But yeah, hopefully they put a Bully in there too. Chris with a good point here. What do you think the point of that whole Unreal Engine 5 display was if they still make the character go through a loading corridor? I noticed that. Do you think it is related to the PS5 being less powerful or something? I don't think it had to do with that, Chris. One thing that they were doing in that demo was they were really pushing the limits. So that was running at 1440p and at 30 frames a second, and they were using 8K textures. So like they were literally pushing, to the limit. So I think that, you could realistically get a game that looks very similar to that doesn't have those loading corridors. I think, though, that maybe the reason you saw it there is again, Unreal Engine 5 is not complete. It's not out until 2021. And B, that was on a PS5 dev kit. It was not on the final hardware released PS5. So, you're going to get some optimization there. And also, you could probably pare back a little bit. Maybe you don't go straight to 8K textures. Maybe you go to 6K or something like that. And you could, reduce some of that. So I wouldn't read it as the end of the world yet, but I did notice that. I did see that as well. All right, we're going to hit one more question. I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to get to more. I try to not drag these streams out super long because I also have other stuff to do. Thank you so much, everyone, that has jumped in the stream. I'm going to hit one more question. Let me see. Let me get one more really good question here. Here we go. This is going to be the last big one I think I'm going to get to. Eric Bezanson here. With Sony's history of revealing games really, really early, well before launch, do you think it's unlikely for Sony to launch the PS5 with a big exclusive to match Halo Infinite / rumored Forza launch game? Eric, Sony's been quiet for too long. They got some big guns coming. What those are going to be, not sure. Naughty Dog, not going to be ready. Sucker Punch, not going to be ready. Sony Santa Monica, unlikely, unless there's something else besides God of War going on over there. I think Guerrilla. I think you can pencil in Guerrilla to have a launch game. Again, I don't know this for fact, but whenever you look at their big first-party studios, they are more than likely the one that's going to be most ready. Now, is that Horizon Zero Dawn 2? I don't know. But just when you look at time release, the timed release landscape, Horizon Zero Dawn kind of came out the furthest back. So I think Guerrilla is your best shot at having something really big at launch from first party. I think you're also going to, of course, get Blue Point's game at launch. They've been hyping that up for too long, and they've been too quiet. So you're going to see some stuff from third party as well, because Blue Point is not owned by Sony, but I think that game's probably exclusive. So you're going to see something really big there too. But in terms of their first party studios, my eye is on Guerrilla. I think Guerrilla is probably going to be the one. They did it with the PS4. Remember Killzone Shadowfall? They had that big tech showcase right off the bat. That's my guess. My guess is Guerrilla. Pencil them in. All right, thanks, everyone. I am sorry to anyone whose questions I did not hit. I hate not getting to questions, but chat's bigger now. So we're going to do another chat again this week, probably on Friday, I'm guessing. So make sure if I missed your question, jump in the stream Friday. Bring those questions on Friday. Hate missing your questions, but I also don't want to sit here and drag out, like a 3-hour stream whenever I got stuff going on. You got stuff going on. Here's my sales pitch. If you like coming to these chats, make sure you hit that like button because it does help the YouTube algorithm and helps people discover my channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it helps you get alerts and everything for whenever my streams are live. Thanks again, everyone. As always, you're all the best. I have the best community. I have the best people to talk to every single one of these live chats. They're my favorite thing that I do. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Be safe, play some games, and get hyped. I'll see you guys in the next stream or on Twitter. Peace.